Welcome back, everyone. Today we'll be learning about careers in nutrition science and dietetics. Before we begin, I wanted to point out that I've included a link here for you to learn more about nutrition science and dietetics if this is something that you find interesting. But for now, let's move on to our introduction to nutrition science and dietetics. The food we eat has a significant impact on our health, and nutrition and dietetics is the science of how food and nutrition affects human health. If you're someone who loves food and wants to help people improve their health, this might be the field for you. But what are nutritionists and dietitians, and how do I even begin to become one if I'd like? Well, let's start with what is a dietitian or nutritionist. Many people believe that a dietitian and a nutritionist are the same thing. But in reality, these are two very distinct professions, and although they share a lot in common, they also have their own unique aspects. Let's begin with what they share in common. Both are professionals who use science and data-based approaches to design meal plans, make recommendations for supplements, and coach clients on the ways that their diet affects their overall health. Specifically, nutritionists take on a more individualized approach, whereas dietitians, also called registered dietitians, use a more population-based approach. Dietitians operate within dietetics and medical nutrition therapy, which involves conducting tests, diagnosing eating disorders, and designing nutritional plans to treat medical conditions such as diabetes or heart disease. Nutritionists' goals include optimizing wellness, preventing disease, and helping clients meet personal goals like sports performance, weight loss, or proper natal nutrition. They do this by tailoring their services to the lifestyle, health history, and unique biology of each client. Now let's take a look at the history of nutrition science and dietetics. One of the earliest origins of nutrition science and dietetics can be found in 9th century BC, in the practice of Ayurvedic medicine. This was one of the earliest forms of medicine which utilized a holistic approach, including diet and herbs, to prescribe specific food and dietary schedules based on the season, one's age, or even their bodily constitution. Later, in 7th century BC, during the Zhou dynasty, a specialty of medicine for diet doctors emerged. These diet doctors followed a text entitled Essential Prescription Worth 1,000 Gold, which stated that food is fundamental to health, and unawareness of proper food intake is inadequate for survival. These physicians were instructed to find the disease origin and treat patients with food modification before prescribing medicine. Later, in 400 BC, Hippocrates, who many of you might be familiar with from the Hippocratic Oath as the father of modern medicine, stated, "Let thy food be thy medicine, and thy medicine be thy food." Fast forwarding to 1747, Dr. James Lind, a Scottish physician within the British Navy, discovered that many sailors were developing scurvy as a result of a deficiency in their diet for citrus fruit. This was before the discovery of vitamins, but later it would be discovered that vitamin C was the essential nutrient within citrus fruit that prevented scurvy. Similarly, in 1884, Dr. Kanehiro Kakaki, a Japanese naval physician, linked the beriberi disease to insufficient nutrition. Again, this was before the discovery of vitamins, but later it would be attributed that vitamin B1 was the essential component that prevented beriberi disease. In the 1900s, we saw the development of the modern version of nutrition and dietetics. In 1912, Polish doctor Dr. Casimir Funk coined the term vitamins, and following that, the first vitamin pills would be joining the market in the 1930s. During World War I, the need for dietetics grew exponentially, and as a result, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics was founded in 1917 in Cleveland, Ohio. After World War I, dietetics began expanding even more, and many dietitians began serving in hospitals. Nowadays, nutritionists and dietitians practice throughout the world in hospitals, schools, research, or even in private practice. So what are some of the skills that you need to become a nutritionist or a dietitian? Well, both of these professionals use a wide array of skills every day in their jobs. But some of the most important we have outlined here for you. First, active listening. It is important to give clients your complete attention and ask appropriate questions when learning about their health issues, dietary concerns, or other challenges. Second, verbal communication. An important aspect of both a dietitian and a nutritionist job is educating clients and their caregivers regarding their health. To do this effectively, you need communication and speaking skills. Interpersonal skills. These people skills allow dietitians and nutritionists to instruct clients and also to work with colleagues in a team setting. Time management and organizational skills. Dietitianists and nutritionists can have heavy caseloads, so organization and time management are imperative to managing their workflow without getting overwhelmed. Working independently. While dietitians and nutritionists do spend a lot of time working with clients and their caregivers in a team-based environment, they also need to be able to meet with those clients, evaluate cases, and make recommendations independently. Some other skills that we have not listed here but are also equally important include analytical skills and problem-solving skills. Let's talk about some famous nutritionists and dietitians. Many of the famous faces you see on TV, such as actresses, celebrities, or even athletes, rely on nutritionists and dietitians for their nutritional guidance in order to upkeep their health. One thing to note is that nutritionists and dietitians actually differ in their educational requirements. This is something that we will go into more depth on a little later in the lesson. But this is the reason that you might see different degrees next to some of these famous names. While dietitians primarily earn their degree specifically for dietetics, anyone who shares an interest in nutrition science can become a nutritionist. For example, many doctors also become nutritionists to better care for their patients. So let's take a look at some of these famous dietitians and nutritionists. Starting in the top left, you may see a face that you're familiar with as Khloe Kardashian. She has a registered dietitian who helps her care for her nutritional health. This is Dr. Philip Goglia, who has a PhD in nutritional science. To his right, you have Horace Fletcher, who is called the Great Masticator in the late 1800s. And he was credited for the ideology that you must chew your food 32 times before swallowing. So if you've ever heard someone tell you to chew your food more thoroughly before swallowing, you have Horace to thank for that. In the middle to the left, you see Dr. Cicely Williams, who is a physician and nutritionist. Her main focus in the 1950s was dealing with maternal and child health, and she's credited for the discovery that vomiting disease, or kwashiorkor, is actually a protein deficiency that results from an over-reliance on artificial baby milk. She discovered that this could be treated with breastfeeding, or using human breast milk to provide that nutrition for the babies. To her right, Marissa Moore is a registered dietitian and also the former president of the Georgia Dietetics Association. She's also a former spokesperson for the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. In the bottom left, you see Mei Zhu, who is a registered dietitian catering nutritional advice for the everyday person through her Instagram. In the bottom right, we have Nazima Qureshi, who is also a registered dietitian. Her interest lies in helping those who practice Ramadan stay healthy during their fasting. So now that we've learned a little bit about what a nutritionist and dietitian actually are, some of the skills involved and the history, and some of the famous faces associated, let's actually take a look at what a day in the life of a nutritionist or a dietitian might include. So some of the things that both of these professions share are offering dietetic educational services, assessing patients' nutritional needs, developing dietetic plans at an institutional level or for private individuals, facilitating group sessions, overseeing meal planning, or even collecting data and preparing statistical reports. But let's go into this more thoroughly. We have below 2 videos, one oriented towards the day of a dietitian and one that delves more into the day in the life of a nutritionist. So enough from me, let's take a look at what they have to say.
With a major in dietetics, you can work in almost any type of setting you want.
Why I love working with children is because you can make them as passionate about food as you are. Just a simple message will impact a child's daily life all the way up until they're an adult.
Sports nutrition combines the best of all possible worlds. It's our culinary expertise, it's our clinical expertise, and you get to work with active people, telling them what to eat, when they eat it, and how much. That is a home run.
As a supermarket dietitian for Meijer stores, I help consumers sort through the confusion because all those decisions about what they're going to eat starts in the grocery store, and that's where we become a very valuable resource because we can guide them and show them how to make those healthier choices.
At Vital Bridges, I provide one-on-one counseling either in person or through telenutrition sessions. Along with that, we provide food specifically for people who are living with HIV/AIDS.
Right now I'm working in health IT. So as a dietitian, there's not that many of us working in this area. So my challenge right now is to be that trailblazer to make that path for us as nutrition professionals working in the health IT space.
I've spent most of my career working with failure to thrive children and underserved populations. The greatest impact that I could have as a dietitian was to work with people who didn't have enough food and to make sure that I increased awareness in all ways so that we made sure that people had enough food.
Now, what does a nutritionist do every day? Again, there's different types of job descriptions that each nutritionist has, but I can tell you a little bit about what I do. Every day I actually start off my job at home, and I work in my home office answering emails, returning phone calls, updating my website to make sure that products that I have available are reflected properly, and any new research updates that I get in each week get posted on my website for review for my clients. And then typically in the afternoons I see clients in my office, and I basically see a client for about 2 hours a piece for an initial consultation, and I go through with them their entire health history as well as what they do every day, what they eat, what time they wake up and when they go to bed, what their sleep habits are like, what their exercise patterns are like, if they have them. And we develop together a plan for them, a kind of a holistic plan, starting with a meal program and also including exercise goals and a supplement program.
Here are some career quick facts on nutritionists and dietitians. Registered dietitians earn a median annual salary of $68,600, which has actually increased by about 8% over the past few years. Similarly, nutritionists earn a median annual wage of $57,910. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the job opportunities for nutritionists are expected to increase by 21% between the years of 2012 and 2022. There is an ever-growing need for dietitians and nutritionists, and Texas is actually the #1 state in the nation for growth in nutritionist jobs at about 30.1%. And although these last two statistics specifically mention nutritionists, the overall trend for job opportunities growth also applies for dietitians. On the right, there is a diagram listing all the different places and settings in which nutritionists and dietitians can practice. In healthcare facilities, they provide nutritional guidance as part of a treatment plan, design proper meals for patients, and/or oversee food service operations such as purchasing and preparation. In community and public health settings, they can teach the public ways to improve wellness through healthy eating. In universities and medical centers, they instruct students and other medical professionals on the science between nutrition and health. In research centers and labs, they conduct and oversee experiments to contribute to the ongoing evolution of knowledge within the field of nutrition and develop new methodologies to improve care. In fitness, sports, and wellness centers, they educate clients on the connection between food, fitness, and health, helping them to establish healthy habits that can help them reach their goals and improve performance. In schools, daycare centers, correctional facilities, or corporations with in-house cafeterias, they help oversee the management of menu offerings through planning, purchasing, and preparation. In private practice, they consult with individual clients who want to improve their lifestyle balance and address specific concerns, such as weight loss or weight gain, and serve as a contractor for food companies, distributors, culinary schools, and more. Besides these, there are also other food-related industries such as restaurants, manufacturers, health food stores, and even meal delivery services, with duties that might include recipe creation, menu plating, product development, or purchasing. Finally, and most importantly, let's discuss the educational requirements for both nutritionists and dietitians. These requirements actually differ for both professions. So let's take a look first at nutritionists. According to current state law in Texas, the nutritionist profession is actually not regulated. Therefore, nutritionists are not obligated to fulfill any licensure, experience, certification, education, or training requirements in order to practice. Unlike nutritionists, dietitians in Texas must be licensed. As a result, nutritionists are excluded from using the titles of licensed dietitian or registered dietitian unless they obtain a dietitian license from the Texas State Board of Examiners of Dietitians. And although there are no formal requirements for a nutritionist job, many job opportunities seek nutritionists who have a bachelor's degree at minimum in some nutrition-related major. Some nutritionists also choose to become titled as a Certified Nutrition Specialist, or CNS. People who apply for CNS training must have an MS or doctoral degree in nutrition or another related field. In addition to these degrees, all trainees, CNSs, must complete coursework from a regionally accredited institution, complete 1,000 hours of documented, supervised practice, pass an exam, and then recertify with continuing education credits every 5 years. In comparison to nutritionists, dietitians have a more set, rigid educational pathway. In the diagram here, you see that first, dietitians must complete a bachelor's degree at a school accredited by the Commission on Accreditation for Dietetics Education, or CADE. Then they must complete 6 to 12 months of work in a CADE accredited practice program. This is akin to an internship. Then they must pass their CDR test, CDR standing for Commission on Dietetic Registration. Lastly, they must maintain their certification through continuing education. Some schools offer the bachelor's degree alone, and some actually combine the first two steps in this diagram through a coordinated program in dietetics, So in a coordinated program in dietetics, you can accomplish both your bachelor's degree and your 6 to 12 months completion of your CADE program. Some of the schools listed for both the didactic program in dietetics, which achieves the bachelor's degree, and some of the schools included within the coordinated programs in dietetics are listed below here for your convenience. We've learned so much about what a nutritionist and a dietitian are and what their daily practice involves. But now we'll be rounding out this lesson with an activity. This activity is called Snack Shack, and it's sponsored by the FDA. There's a lot more to nutrition than calories in and calories out. The proteins, fats, and different vitamins that we ingest are crucial to making sure that our body is getting all the nutrients it needs. In the Snack Shack exercise, we'll be looking at nutrition labels and using them to compare and understand what are the different nutrients we receive from our common afternoon snacks. The materials that you will need for this exercise include only a stable internet connection. And the simple instructions that you need to follow include first, visiting this website at yville.net. Then you will create your yville avatar, which can be done through a guest mode, and follow the walkthrough instructions and prompts that will appear on your screen. Label Lingo has up to 12 levels for you to compare different snacks' nutritional values. After you've completed the exercise, think about how you can apply what the Snack Shack taught you about nutrition to your everyday life. Were you surprised by anything you learned? Thank you for joining us today in our lesson on nutrition science and dietetics.